So I'm very happy to be here, and I am Christine Geoffrey, and I represent to you how we use the theory of constraints to increase our production rate of Ariane 5 launcher cryogenic tanks. So first of all, let me introduce myself, and then I will explain what we manufacture and the way the factory is organized, and of course how we applied the theory of constraints. So I am an engineer, and I started working as a system engineer on the tactical missile systems in MBDA, which is a European company. And then I moved to Airbus Defence and Space to take in charge tactical UAV systems programs. And presently I am managing director of Eurocryospace, which is a subsidiary between Air Liquide and Ariane Group, working for Ariane 5 launcher. So I will explain how we developed the theory of constraints and managing the different bottlenecks in our factory, one after the other. So we made the process 3 times. But first, I will be glad to explain to you how Ariane 5 works. So Eurocryospace is a subsidiary of Air Liquide and Ariane Group, and we manufacture the cryogenic tanks and associated equipments for the Ariane 5 launcher. Our customer is directly Ariane Group, who is in charge of integrating the launcher, and Ariane Group with Arianespace sells to the operators the satellite launch. We were created in 1988. The turnover is about 50 million euros, and we have around 160 employees within the company. We are located in Les Mureaux, which is a small city not far from Paris in France. And the particularity is that we are close to La Seine, because we manufacture in Les Mureaux the complete main stage of Ariane 5, which is quite big and impossible, of course, to handle by road. So this is why we are close to the Seine for sending the main stage of Ariane 5 to Kourou for the launches. Okay, so before explaining how we applied the theory of constraints in the workshop, I will shortly explain how Ariane 5 launcher is working. So you can find 4 main parts in the launcher. First ones are the booster, the auxiliary boosters. This one is burning like a missile to make the launcher quit the Earth ground for about 2 minutes. Then they are ejected. And the main part is performing the cruise part, so the cruise of the launch. And this one is working with liquid oxygen and hydrogen. So this one allows the launcher to go further in space. So we start to have more altitude and of course more distance to Earth. And then the upper stage is taking the very last part of the mission. The upper stage is also working with an engine fed by liquid oxygen and hydrogen, and is achieving the very last part of the mission with the satellites to put the satellites at the right orbit. So this one is completely customized to the mission. So what are we doing for the launcher? We manufacture the hydrogen tank for the upper stage and different equipment as well, particularly the cryogenic lines. And for the main stage, we manufacture the main tank. So you can see that it is the main part of the launcher. In fact, this one is 23 meters long for 5.4 meter diameter. And we manufacture here both oxygen and hydrogen tank together with other equipment and the cryogenic lines. So you can see that we work on quite big devices, and we have a few different parts in the workshop with very different technical expertise. So what is the process of the manufacturing of the tanks? So we start first with the welding. We receive metallic panels and buckets. And the first step of manufacturing is to weld together. First the panels together so that we build rings. And you can see here the different rings that we manufacture by welding the panels. And then we weld together the rings and the bulkheads to achieve the complete tank. So you can see here that at the end of the day we have a bare tank which is both oxygen and hydrogen, and we have a common bulkhead which is also insulated between the two tanks. So when the welding is achieved, we need to insulate, because oxygen and hydrogen must remain liquid as soon as we feed the tank, and for all the mission, of course. So we need to have a very strong insulation, because we speak about very low temperature, and we are at 2090 K. So this is really cryogenic temperature. So the insulation consists in gluing some panels, which is a foam that we glue on the tank. So here we have other expertise, other technical expertise. It's a very different job from the welding. And the very last step of manufacturing the tank is the equipment integration. So we have here to integrate inside the tank, of course, the lines, pressure lines and feeding lines, but also different equipment, measurement, and so on, to make sure that during the flight everything goes well. So this one is done in a clean room, because we need absolutely to have a complete clean tank and all equipment associated. The engine is designed to work with the liquid oxygen and hydrogen, but there is a very strong constraint of level of particles and pollution that can be inside the oxygen and the hydrogen. So we need really to deliver tank and cryogenic lines with a low level of particles. So these different steps of manufacturing take place in the workshop, which is quite large. We have 16,000 square meters. And you can see here the production layout with the different areas. So the green area here is the welding benches. We have three welding benches, one welding bench to weld the cylinders, the rings. So this is where we put the panels and where we manufacture the rings. So you have also a video where you can see the process of welding of those rings. And then you have two benches on which we weld the circular welding. So we weld the rings together and together with the bulkheads. So this is done in this area, and we have also a small area which is just close there, where we weld the lines, so the cryogenic lines. We have two types of cryogenic lines in aluminium or stainless. Then we have the other part of the workshop, which is dedicated to the insulation and the equipment work. Insulation, there are a few rooms. The particularity of those rooms is that there is a specific control of temperature and humidity, so that all the gluing process is done properly. And in this area, we will also manufacture both tank and lines. So we also have sometimes priorities to design between the tanks and the lines. And I will come back to that later on, because we found also sometimes that there were priorities which were not properly managed. And we've been working on that in different areas. And then here you can see the clean room, which is the equipment integration room, where we have this particle control to make sure that the tank and the lines are clean, so that we don't damage the engine during the flight. And you can see here the upper part, where we have our customer integration, so the main stage integration, and we deliver inside the building our tank, our equipped tank, to the customer for the stage integration. In the lower part, we have the insulation and equipment for the hydrogen per stage tank. So you can see that it is quite a broad area of working expertise, and we had some strong issues a few years ago. Because we were not producing enough tanks, we were not meeting the market requirement and our customer expectations, mostly in terms of plannings. We had a factory allowing us a production of 6 to 7 tanks per year on average. But in fact, when we had to increase our production rate, and because we were producing about 5 tanks per year, which was absolutely not enough, the demand in the meantime had been increased to 8 tanks per year. So we really had to do something. So we started to work with Maris Consulting to put in place a continuous improvement program, which was called the Creo Boost. And the objective was clearly to increase our production quality, so this, quality and rate. And this started in about 2016. So how did we work? This is a standard 5 focusing steps. I think probably most of you are aware of that, but I'd like to insist a bit on a few points related to those 5 steps, because when you look at that, you have the feeling that it's obvious, and yes, you just have to go. But it can be tricky, and so there are things you need to take care about when you perform the process. First thing, of course, is to identify the system constraints. This is relatively easy to do in production, not so much in projects. But the point is that, okay, when you have identified the constraints, how do you deal with that? And this is where the application is not always so obvious. So you need to decide how you will exploit the system constraints. So this doesn't require much investment, doesn't require much time. You need just to decide and to focus on those constraints. The third point is very important. You have to subordinate everything else to this decision. And this one, you need to have a management team which is completely aligned with the objective, which we decided to do, and this was our case. All my management team was completely in line, both with the objective and the method to apply. Then, when this is done, the objective, of course, is to elevate the system's constraints. Then, of course, you can have investment, and you need to put time on it. But this can also be done with not so many investments. It depends, of course, on the case, but in our case, we didn't modify much the process, the machines, the process, and so on. It was really to work on the organization and to decrease all bottlenecks one after the other. And of course, the last step, which is very important, when you eliminate a constraint, first of all, you need to keep under surveillance this constraint, because it must not restart to be a new bottleneck, or to be a bottleneck. But of course, you will move the constraint from one bottleneck to another. And so when one bottleneck is eliminated, of course, you will find another one that pops up. and you need to restart the process for the following bottleneck. So what did we do practically in the workshop? We dealt with 3 bottlenecks, one after the other. So each changed during the project, of course, because of the improvements made on the previous bottleneck. So the first bottleneck was the welding machine for the tank. The second one, after we eliminated the welding machine bottleneck, the second one was the incoming quality inspection. And the first one, the X-ray control for the lines. So you can see that the bottlenecks were in very different areas, on different equipment as well. Once we dealt with the bottlenecks related to the tank, we discovered that it was at the level of equipment that the following bottlenecks were. So this analysis has to be performed one after the other. And this is where it's interesting. So the 3 bottlenecks here, the welding, the incoming quality inspection, and the X-ray control of the lines. You can see here that they take place in different areas of the workshop. So the first bottleneck was the welding machine of the tank itself, and so the welding between the rings and the bulkheads. The second one was the incoming inspection, so at the bottom of the map, and the third one, which was the X-ray control of the lines, so which is in a specific area close to the lines manufacturing. The first bottleneck was the welding machine of the main stage tank. And so it was identified after first analysis. We knew already that this area was tricky and that it was not working properly. But the difficulty of the exercise and where Maris Consulting has been helping a lot was to identify, of course, the bottleneck, but mostly to choose the different techniques to deal with. Which can be different considering the constraint, considering the business or the particularity of the phase. So we had so you can see here on the graph that we had a takt time on the welding, which was around 38 days, where we needed 27 days to deliver the right production rate. So you can see here on the graph the tact of the tact of the welding is the green lines, and you can see here the different phases. So the welding, the red line is the insulation, and the blue line is the equipment. So you can find here the 3 main steps of manufacturing. You can see that it's obvious on the graph that is presented here. That the green part was not meeting the requested tact. So this is where we started working on the welding machine. So what we did to apply the critical chain on the welding machine, first of all, we decided to use a mascot. This can look a bit funny, but in fact it's very powerful. So what is the mascot? It's a remarkable object. So in our case, it's just the panel that you can see here. And the panel helped all the company to identify where was the bottleneck, where was the critical path. And you need to subordinate everything to this operation. So it was a rule that was identified and communicated to all the staff, that when one operation had this mascot, the panel, that was the most priority in the workshop. And that, of course, you must not disturb the operation because it is the priority at the moment. But of course, also, you need to put in place all the help and the support from all the company. If something occurs, if there is a failure or something to correct, you have to have all support completely available to facilitate this operation. And this is not so easy to do, and you need really to manage and to follow this work in the workshop. Because when you have an issue, it can be for maintenance, for example. Of course, the maintenance people, they have a lot to do in a workshop. And when a failure occurs, they are busy elsewhere. And it has to start, it really has to be clear for everybody that they need to stop what they were doing. Of course, if there is no security issue. And to go to help and to solve the issue on the bottleneck. So this is really an organization to put in place, and you need also to make people understand why we do that, because it's a change of habits, and very often the staff is not so willing to change that. So, but this is very powerful, because when it's done properly, you lose the minimum time on the bottleneck, and you also can save time between the different phases. And this is where the critical chain has been applied as well. So you can see here on the graph the initial process of welding, which is particular because we speak about welding, but it's not only welding. In fact, when we start a welding, there is some preparation work. Then there is the weld itself, and then we have a lot of phases of control, different controls, and particularly X-ray controls. And all this is done by different people. And of course, when the phase is finished, but we saw, because we have been observing the different process, we saw that there was a lot of lost time between the different phases. So the critical chain was applied there, and the objective was being really to focus on the operation and to remove all this lost time. We did not change much the process in itself. We did not require to the staff to go more quickly on an operation that they were performing, because we need, of course, to keep the quality there. But we removed all the lost time between the different phases. And this is where also the mascot is very useful, because the way to do it was that when part of the staff had the mascot for one operation, when the operation is finished, they just don't leave the work like this and saying, calling somebody, hey, you can come, and it's ready for you. They had to physically give the mascot to the following staff. And this is very important, because that means that you don't have lost time, because the guy who has the mascot, he needs to find physically the following one and to give the mascot to him. And so this was really very interesting, because very quickly we were able to remove all the lost time between the different phases. So after having removed the different lost time, we've been focusing on the new critical chain welding. So this is the process where you have a focused duration, which is the time, the average time you have for the complete operation when you remove all safety margin. And the safety margin is put at the end of the process. That doesn't mean that you wait for the whole process and to use the buffer, but you know that you have the focus duration, which is this optimum average time, and then the buffer that you will use all over the process, which is normal, and the buffer is there to be used, of course, but it is used for the complete duration. So the buffer is global. And this is where it's very important also to have that. So this is the main principle. How did we perform that for the welding machine? Is we started with the first step, which is a workshop observation, because you need, of course, to analyze and to identify the real focused duration of each task, so that you can build properly your schedule. And then we decided with this observation that the focused duration, the objective of focused duration would be 22 days, which was a reasonable time considering the normal way of working, which allowed, because the objective was to reach the 27 days, which allowed 5 days of buffer. So we monitored the schedule with the fever chart. So the fever chart is working this way. You have the green part, which is the focused duration time. So this one, of course, is moving all around the manufacture process. And then you have the buffer, represented here by the 5 days. And you monitor all the manufacturing process, taking care that the schedule remains in the green and even yellow part. Of course, the red part is an indicator for warning. If you start to lose too much time, that means you consume too much buffer, and then you need to identify that so that you take the proper actions to come back in the lower part of the chart. So the principle is this one: at every step of working of the manufacturing process, you check that you are remaining in the green or yellow part, and at the end of the day, you need to end up with a maximum consumption of the buffer of those 5 days. So you can see here different examples of the fever chart. Of course, when you start to see that your process is moving too much in the red part, here you need to take actions and to refocus the complete operations to resave time. This tool is also very powerful because that means that in real time you are able to understand where the evolution of the operation is and where you need to put energy to recover time if you see that you are starting to consume too much days of the buffer. So we've been performing this process for some time, and at the end of the day, we end up with a huge increase in speed and productivity. The takt time was effectively reduced from 38 days to 27 days, and even more because we were previously at 38 days takt, but in 3 shifts, so we had people working at night. And we were able to reach the 27 days takt only with 2 shifts. So that means that we even increased more the productivity, even more than the initial objective. So you can see here in the graph the result of the critical chain applied to the welding. And we effectively ended up with a rate of 8 ranks per year. Then, after you deal with the first bottleneck, a second one starts to pop up. So you need to deal with the second one. So this is what we did. We restarted the process with the second bottleneck, which was the incoming quality inspection. Here we speak mostly about the work in progress. We had about 1,000 packages. You can see here on the picture there, which was absolutely tremendous, and we had really too much work in progress, and it was not possible to go on this way. The objective here that we decided to reach was to decrease that to less than 200 work packages. So to absorb that, we used different techniques. The first one is the 2-for-1 rule. That means that you need first to achieve and to decrease at least for 2 packages before having one entering. So of course you start again. You stop here the increase of packages, and so this has been done by putting, of course, more operators and energy on it, and to use non-bottleneck resources on the bottleneck. So this is also something that you need to communicate and to explain to the staff, because that means that you will take people that are loaded, they have some work, but it is on non-bottleneck operations, and you need to explain to them that even if they have some work on these operations, they are not bottleneck, and you need this energy to put on the bottleneck to solve it. So of course, as any change, the beginning is often very difficult, because people are reluctant to change their habits. So this is where you need really to have all the management line completely in line with the decision, to make the staff understand and then work properly on that. So we reassigned inspectors from other operations to this incoming quality inspection. And we also reorganized the work itself. So we focused the people on typology, on the batches, so that they gain in autonomy. It's you know that when you don't move from one work to another too often, you are more efficient. So we applied also that, so that the staff was really focused on work which was more consistent at one time. And in addition, so of course here also we gain efficiency. We were able to decrease the level of packages to the objective, and we discovered also that it has very strongly reduced the stress level of the team, because when you start to see the progress and the improvement, but of course, you start to feel that everything is more under control, and it reduced the stress. This is normal. Third bottleneck was the X-ray control of the lines. So here also we had a very high level of WIP. We had 130 lines in progress all around the workshop. Lines can be very small or bigger, but you can imagine that in the workshop dealing with the tank, which is very big, we can have many lines in progress all over the workshop, and if you don't look at that, you even don't notice it. And one particularity also of our process is that we use part of the two links commonly for the tank and for the lines. So the lines are following the complete process also as the tank. And we also had sometimes some priority decision to make on the two links. So we had lines all over the workshop, and over the 130 lines, we had 50 waiting for the X-ray control. So this is the same for the quality inspection. We needed to have extra capacity, so we moved some staff from other departments which were not bottleneck to increase our capacity on the X-ray control. And we also scheduled the work a bit differently with priorities that were decided, because the lines are used in the tank integration, and there is also a logic to produce first what you need on the tank. And it was happening sometimes that we were waiting for the tank integration, that the lines were manufactured, and so we had also to reorganize a bit the priority of the production. So all this allowed us to maximize the productivity and to end up with to decrease the bottleneck. You can see here on the graph the strong decrease of the work in progress. So we had also to improve our priority management, and we use red cards. Considering the following process and the level of priority of the lines to be controlled, we decided that we would have 5 red cards in the workshop and not more. That means that the red cards that were identified were also the priority to work on, and it's the same as the mascot or the other process. Communication to all the staff. When an equipment has the red card, that means that it is completely urgent, and that you need to focus all the energy and the organization of the company towards this red card to make to accelerate the manufacture of this particular equipment. So at the end of the day, our throughput was increased by 25%. So you can see here the evolution of the total time manufacturing. And you can see also on this graph the red lines which represent the welding time. And you can see that it has been very stabilized compared to the previous ranks where we had sometimes a lot of days in addition to that. So this was really achieved using the fever chart and the capacity to focus on the welding to make sure that we were staying inside the 25 days of lead time. So you can see here the throughput, which was in 2016 about 6 per year, and our throughput in 2017, 2018 has been increased to 8 rank per year. So this was really a success, and we achieved this objective. What can I say in conclusion? We really obtained a significant increase in performance by focusing on those manufacturing operations, applying properly the theory of constraints, combined with lean actions. It really goes together because you can use the different techniques to deal with the bottleneck and to eliminate the different bottleneck depending on the operation and depending on the constraint and the nature of the constraint that you discover when you analyze the bottleneck. And the conclusion is really clear. That means that anyway, the complete performance is the performance of the bottleneck. And you need to deal with the bottleneck and the different bottlenecks one after the other when they appear. This is an unending story because even if you have been able to eliminate a bottleneck, you need to go on with the surveillance. And this is really the management work to take care that the bottleneck is not reappearing sometimes later. But the results can be really obtained in a few months with quite limited investment because when you are able to focus on the duration, the real duration of the operation, and to remove all lost time, which is the basic of the lean actions, you see that you can really save time and increase the performance very, very significantly. So the results can be obtained in a few months with limited investment. You don't have to change most the process, but really to work on the organization, and the result is really sustainable. That means that when you take care of the bottleneck and you take care that you go on with this surveillance of the bottleneck, you can really go on and stabilize this result for the following years. So at the end of the day, we were able to increase by the 25%, which was our objective. So what I would like also to add together with this conclusion is just to focus on one interesting point. When we started the critical chain application on our manufacturing, I said that we were not meeting the expectation of the customer. It was more than that. In fact, we were the real bottleneck of the whole IN5 launch chain. That means that there was no buffer. We were producing our tanks. They were integrated by the customer, sent to Kourou, and then the launches occurred immediately afterwards. And there was also a level of stress which was really huge. And very quickly, when we started to save time with the critical chain application, we decreased the level of stress. So this was true on every bottleneck, but this was true also for the complete factory, because very quickly you understand that you start to be successful and you start to save time, and the customer, of course, starts to be happy. And this is very important also, because then, first of all, you can embark even more efficiently all the staff, because they understand why we do that and where we are going, and they understand also that we start to be successful. But you also decrease the complete level of stress of the chain, and you send the bottleneck to somebody else. So there was one time when the customer started to say that, well, that's right, but now we don't have room to take your tanks, so you start to be too quick for us. So this was also something very very nice for all the staff and the team, and we were quite proud of what had been obtained. Thank you for your attention. Then I think we can leave the room to questions, if any.